here, on the very rim of known space, justice is a long way away.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Spaz.
Second star to the right and straight on till morning.
Your co-host, Julie.
Hello from the great bright north.
Oh, really? That's summer there.
Sunny day.
Is it summer yet? Like, there's summer like soon. I don't remember.
Soon, just about to be.
Yeah, it's the first day of summer is soon. Not that matters here in Southern California. Also joining us is your co-host, Thorsten.
Hello, somewhere from Southeast Asia.
What?
I'm swimming away in my own sweat.
Oh God!
Oh no!
Well, maybe you can find that. Maybe you can find that submersible while you're at it.
That was a thing that happened.
While you're out there, maybe you can find that thing.
Oh God!
Also joining us is your co-host Jacob. Speaking of which, there you go.
I'm sorry, I had a bit going on there, but that completely threw me off. Right.
Sorry.
It ain't much, but it's honest work.
And your co-host David.
Is this thing on? Hello?
Looks like it.
Now joining us from Jacob's neighborhood in Poland. I'm just lumping your whole country as a neighborhood, by the way, because that's what we do.
Oh, yes.
That's what we do. It's not that big, right?
It has like let's see. It's only about 37 million people.
It's a little smaller than California, right? Physically. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, say, can you see?
Please stop. It's not that big. Joining us from Poland, Coder, because I'm not going to try and say your actual name, because that would be bad. From Codera Software to talk about your almost out. Well, it kind of is out of early access, but not officially yet. Delta V, Rings of Saturn. Welcome, buddy.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. We've been following your game for it's been early access. It's been early access for what, 3 or 4 years? Right?
Almost 2 years, yes.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Steam says
2019. Oh God, yeah, August 2019. Oh my God, it's right there.
Yeah, time flies.
Oh my God, it does. Wow,
I follow it longer.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, March 2020 was 18 years ago, so I mean, that's why it's felt that long. But
it is very relative.
Yeah, but your game is almost out of early access. It's coming out, I believe, next month in July.
Exactly to the day.
But you've already released the 1.0 to people who already own it.
Yeah,
which is kind of awesome. I have to admit.
Interesting approach.
Well, I already have the build, so why keep it back? This way, at least I get all the bugs fixed.
Oh, I see.
That makes sense.
For the first time in the history of programming, something was done before the deadline. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, but that's because I set the deadline after I was finished. So it's easier this way.
No, that's great. Okay. That's great. You're like Scotty. If it takes 4 hours, tell them it's going to take 8. You're like
and then they'll think you're a miracle worker.
Exactly. So, how would you describe your game to someone who's never seen it before?
Ooh, asteroids, but with physics.
What?
Good description.
That's fair.
That's very apt, actually.
This is very simplistic, but entirely fair. It is about dodging asteroids in 0G.
Oh man, dodging! You'll see if you watch the video I made for the background here. It is I did a poor job of that today while I was recording the video.
Yeah, dodging is the intended result. What you're seeing Oh, let's see. Right. No, you dodged that one.
I got a little bit of no. Here we go, and boom, there it is. I got a little bit of target fixation.
Whack.
Yeah, I got a little bit of target fixation, and a nice big rock hit me pretty much in the face, which is very easy to happen in this game. You got to pay attention.
Just slam face first into a rock. Lovely stuff.
It was great. It's delightful. Go ahead.
Carry on.
No,
okay. What I was going to say is, fundamentally, the game, I would say yes. It is basically a movement. It is basically a movement puzzle about eating space rocks and not slamming into bigger space rocks.
And it's
like that one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great because even though the physics are real and everything, you've created a control scheme that is not. Oh, and I hit another one. You made a control scheme that is not at all really complicated. I mean, it can be as complex as you want it to be. You have buttons for every thruster, which I really think is awesome.
If you want to control that thing manually, you can. Is it a good idea?
Not especially for me. But I love how you've given people the option for a complex control system if they want it, but you've also added some hotkeys that and some mouse buttons that make flying around nowhere near as complicated as you might think. So I really have to share my appreciation for your control scheme. Was that a tough balance to come up with?
Well, it all started with manual controls because I actually made this because one of my favorite games, that was Elite 2 Frontier. I don't know if you played that.
Oh yeah,
of course we did.
Oh my god,
yeah.
I still remember. Yeah. I still remember when I bought the box at a Babbage's in the Springfield Mall back in 1994 after a blizzard, and I played that thing for months. So, oh yes, remember that game very well.
It was awesome, but one thing that always bothered me is that I saw that this ship had another thrusters, but I couldn't use it manually, because if you use manual thrust in Frontier, you only could get your main torch and your back thrusters, and that was about it.
Oh right.
Yeah, the turning in that game was fiddly.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted. Oh, okay. I want to control all the thrusters, and then nobody will be able to fly this. We need autopilot on top of this. I mean, you can actually play this on full manual. I know I do. I know many players that do, but it takes time. It gives you really fine control over the ship, but you need to have a feel how a ship moves in space.
Brave soldiers, those people. Holy crap.
Probably a lot of practice.
I do appreciate how you've made it a diegetic, as is the legal term, by making the autopilots actually something you can buy for your ship, including better autopilots that are more responsive and react better with how do I say this? And react better with like changes in thrust depending on cargo and depending on damage to your thrusters. It's very good. I do. In fact, I want to just touch on that because I do appreciate just how much effort you put into making like everything in making every upgrade for the ship and every component you can buy a real thing, like feel like a real thing that you could like buy at a hardware store or a car shop.
Yeah, upgrading the ship is great. I really like the progression there.
Yeah, no, there are lots of toys, and I love how you can upgrade each individual thruster if you want to.
Yes. Yes. Now you can, in fact, upgrade yourself into flaming out and exploding, but hey, the game kind of warns you there.
Oh,
yes, if you are like.
I just wanted to say that somewhere in the tutorial, there should be like a suggestion that said, also you might want to buy baffles so that all of your mined ore doesn't slide right out the front.
True, yeah.
I've had that happen.
This is a very important laning experience. because that's
Yeah.
that's put there so remind you that okay, this is real physics. You open up the cargo bay, you're going to slow down, everything will fall off.
I believe that happened to me in the video that I made this morning. Like I had 3 rocks just fall out right in front of me. I had to get them again. Everything's loose.
Yep, you're a space mining truck. You don't have any like fancy cargo organizing. Like you can get like a processing system that makes it easier, but it's very expensive and but arguably worth it in the long run. But you don't start with it.
No, so basically everything's just rolling around loose in your giant space can. You're basically a giant.
Yes,
you're a soda can with engines is basically what you are, and
yes,
and a kind of a fish-like mouth in the front of it.
That is the part that I still find the most amusing. The fact that you do, in fact, mine in this game by approaching small rocks and eating them.
And I appreciate that because a lot of games like you point a beam at a rock and it just hoovers the minerals out, and I'm fine with that too. But I appreciate the like what's the word? Would physicality be the word of the things you're pulling in? Like
Tactile.
Tactile. That's a good word.
Or
That's
tangible, like tangibility could be it as well.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, you have to actually get to the rock. And the thing is, other games have tried to do this kind of approach before. Like, here's the bingo card, Elite Dangerous. They've got, mining in this game where you have to pick up the little pieces, and it's probably the most frustrating space mining I've ever encountered, honestly. And
then they give you robots that do it for you, which this game also has, but they're better.
I guess I haven't gotten to that point here. Probably need a better ship for that. So I haven't gotten that far in the game. I'm going to be completely honest because I'm still not good at it. I'm trying to get better, but I need more practice. But is it a pure sandbox?
And there's a lot of stuff.
Is it
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there is. Is it a pure sandbox, or are there missions and quests at some point?
Well, you have quests tied to mostly to your crew. So if you hire people, they want to do something usually with their life. So if you want to experience story, hire people. And there is kind of a mine quest you can get involved into, but I really didn't like games that shove the mine quest upon you, that you need to go and save this planet or something like that. So this is made in the way that if you want to get involved in the conflict that is going on in the rings, you can have impact on what is going on, but you have to seek it out yourself.
Oh, I see. And it seems like it's also a really big game.
It's huge.
Just the first area where you're finding asteroids to mine is just absolutely massive.
Is it 1-to-1? Is it like 2 scale with how big the actual rings would be?
Technically, yes, but the gameplay area is limited to 3,000 kilometers square. Like square of 3,000 kilometers each side. So it's huge, but space is huge.
Yes, that is 3,000 square kilometers, which is still a lot of space, but it's not the entire ring.
No. If you look at the entire ring, this is a tiny portion, really.
It would still take a long time to fly from one end to the other, especially with the starting ship.
Yeah,
starting ship is actually K-37 is really good.
Yeah, it's one of the faster ships.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It's not like you're starting with shit ship. This is a thing that can. I play it all the time. This is my favorite ship, so you can totally go in the game.
Oh wow!
There are other ships in the game, but most of the times they're either sideways or they're like a gimmick. They have some weird thing they can do. Like there's the Eagle. I believe was it called the Eagle, which has these big crunching like
yes,
the Eagle Prospector, which has this like crunching thing at the front. Like it's not a drill; it's like a grinder, like a rock grinder. That you can use instead of railguns or mining lasers, but it also lacks what's called the high stress mount, which is the big thing in the middle of the Kestrel that you can mount like railguns or big arms on. which, by the way, is my favorite upgrade in the game, the big arm. You can just mount on your ship.
Oh yeah, geez. Making that arm took like half a year.
Yeah, the fact that it even feels realistically janky like a robot arm would tells me that you put a ton of effort into it.
Admittedly, most of this effort was to make it not crash the game, because this thing was like, okay, this is fun 3-day project, let's add this, and it kept messing up all the systems. Because it integrates into everything in the game, in the physics, it's not actual physical object. Like, unlike everything else that's modeled what the in-engine physics, this is purely mathematical construct that needs to match the physics ideally. So there were all kinds of problems. So that's one of upgrades that when I got to the point when it stopped crashing the game, it said, okay, you have this arm and I'm not touching it. Nothing
it works,
about it.
Leave it be.
Yeah, it works until we go out in 1.0. I'm not touching this.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you stuck through with it because it is my favorite upgrade in the game.
You know, I just wanted to say, and our people have been listening to the show since I've been on know that my favorite part of EVE Online was the industrial part. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of space games that are about the industry side. And that's just something I wanted to say thank you for doing this kind of game. And I also wanted to ask you about, while I really appreciate the artwork, why do all the spaceships look like bugs?
They do.
And
They
one is
do?
even named after what? An arachnid something?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, the K-47, that's, I suppose.
Is it just my imagination that I'm reading into something?
I don't think so, really. This wasn't a conscious decision. So, when designing ship, we actually have this real truss layout in the game. So, one of the first thing that I need to think about when I'm making a new ship is where to add the thrusters so the ship actually flies reasonably.
Because yes, they are modeled physically.
Yeah,
Of course they are.
I figured that the easiest way to make the ship move is not to induce some motion, just add a place where you put exhaust in the one direction and apply force in the opposite direction, and that's it. That's how the game, how the real physics works of spacecraft. So that added a lot of trouble for the autopilot, which actually needs to know where all the thrusters are, because one of the things that we don't have here, there are no cheats. Like the computer, the autopilot does not cheat. It uses exactly the same controls as you can. But that means that it needs to be aware of all the physics around and how this would actually work. So this implied that there are some designs that are just not feasible because ship wouldn't fly. You couldn't perform some maneuvers or was really awkward to fly, and perhaps some of the similarities between ships come from this.
Oh, okay.
So to summarize, is the fact that with how ships work, there's only so many different ways you can shape them.
Yeah, well, yes, because if you want your ship to slow down, you need to put thrusters in front of it, right? So you need something that goes in front of ship, back to all the way around, right?
Yeah.
So I understand this. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I understand this wasn't your first effort, and I just saw this basically in passing and trying to do a little background about you. Is what attracted you to an industry based kind of game, and did you just wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I know asteroids"?
Yeah, actually, this is my first attempt at making games. I tried to do role-playing games first, and that was a terrible idea. Because the scope of the actual time you will spend on making the game is much larger than you think initially. So if you think, okay, this is a project for 2 years, you're not going to finish it. Delta V, I initially thought I could make it in 1 month.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry.
So that was like, oh, and we need that, and we need that, and we need that. There was a fair amount of scope creep when we got out in the early access, because initially I didn't actually plan any crew, any dialogue system. That was something that players wanted. It was initially just flying, mining rocks, and environmental storytelling about the things that are happening in the rings. But yeah, then players come, okay, let's. It would be fun to talk to other ships, and yeah, that was a simple thing to do. This added about 3 years to the development.
Oh wow.
Just a tiny increase.
1 month versus 3 years. Wow.
Now I will concede. I will concede one thing. It is it made the game a lot better. The crew system made the game genuinely fun and genuinely more interesting because, well, your crew are your primary source of storytelling.
Yes.
Oh, and if I may say something about the crew here, when I'm hailing our ships and stuff, when my crewmen are speaking about our ships, can I just get their role as well as their name in the chat log, so I know that's my mechanic who is speaking or whatever? Is that possible?
Yeah, I don't think I have that feature. I mean, I remember vaguely implementing something like that, but that's not in.
I'm sorry.
Okay, it is somewhere, but it's not. It doesn't show up everywhere where you see your crew. So if for some dialogue options, when you pick, for example, if you are letting crewmen go, you will see that you are firing your geologist here. But it's not everywhere.
All right.
So this is a fun idea to add, but we are right now in feature freeze. So after the release.
Yes, you have enough stuff to work on, and the game is already pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I get player and my own ideas all the time. All that goes to the backlog because currently, when we are preparing for the release, all I work on until for next month, I think, will be fixing bugs. So because adding any feature will pretty much always add new bugs, and
yeah, you don't
it seems that players really don't like releases with bugs. So I opted to
no, they don't.
Let's make sure there are no bugs, and we will pick up adding new features after that.
It's really tough too because I'm helping work on a game, and up until I had to tell the developer to stop because we're in beta, he was adding new stuff, and I'm like, no, we're supposed to stop doing this so we can just focus on fixing things.
Well, I wanted to say thank you though for, even though we don't know any popular game that starts with an S that has feature creep. I won't say the name, but
you can say the name. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Star Citizen, bingo! I did want to congratulate you on listening to your community because that's been one of my greatest upsets with a game I won't get into, but it's a port to a popular handheld, and the thing is there's so many bugs, and when you try and turn in a bug report, you just get like this little automated that said, okay, thanks for writing, but it's nice to have somebody who really listens to the community, even if it's sometimes to your detriment.
Yeah, like how has the early access period gone for you? Has it been pretty constructive? Have there been problems? Like, I'm always fascinated to hear how early access goes for a developer.
This was actually fantastic.
Oh,
So I got a lot of feedback. Well, I got the game sales. That's the most important part, because when I started this was just a side project. Right now, this can go full time.
oh my gosh!
It's completely self-sufficient at this point. So yeah, that's amazing. It took about 3 years to get there. So the last year is okay. I don't need to do anything else. I could technically do this full time.
Wow.
Yeah, that's also a perk of this, that the prices in Poland are probably a lot lower than in the States. So I don't need that much.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But no, that's awesome to hear, though.
All right, Delta V, it's in static configuration is still $5.
That's amazing. 3 years later, and you're living the dream.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. And well, that was a real challenge to go to plan when to go out of the early access, because if you have yet you have this project that is self-sustaining, right? So I don't really have to go out of the early access. This is like something. Or okay, I need to put the line. This is the complete experience I want you to have, because, well, it's an important milestone, but that's not something like I had some looming deadline over me.
Well, I mean, you could start selling JPEGs of ships. You know?
No.
If you want, I mean, that'll bring in some more money. You don't have to actually release. You don't have to actually ever release the game. Just keep adding things.
In case you haven't noticed, we really dislike Star Citizen. Just in case you weren't aware of this somehow.
in case
just say Macbeth game or something.
In case we weren't clear.
I think this is pretty universal among players.
Yeah, well,
like, I really like what they showed they want to do with the Star Citizen, but
well, yeah.
What, 12 years now?
About 11, roughly, because it started in 2012. So 11 years. No, just a side note.
There is something you can play there, so it's not completely bad.
It's not nothing, but
yeah, if they had kept to the scope, speaking of scope creep, of their original designs that they were planned, that they released on Kickstarter and whatnot, the game would have been out already. But
yeah, we still don't have Squadron 42, but regardless,
but we have procedural eggs, and cupboards are interactive now, and bathrooms. I think there's bathrooms in the game.
And forcible ejection from your ship by falling through it. That's a thing.
Granted, that was like 2 years ago, but yes, that was a thing.
Regardless.
Anyway.
And procedural blankets.
Regardless, Delta V Rings of Saturn, which, by the way, one...
No, I was going to kind of bring it back. Was it hard to come to a point where you're like, I have to stop adding things and just focus on making this ready for release? Was that a tough line to come to, because you want to keep making it better?
Yes. One of the things I need to cut back for 2.0 and 3.0 was 2 story arcs, because I really like the idea that you can have like not one main storyline, but 3 different ones, and the player can pick which one he goes for. So initially I planned 3 storylines, but then I figured, okay, let's do one for 1.0, and I'll add another for 2.0 and another for 3.0.
So I presume what this means is after the game comes out, you are still going to put in effort and add updates and such.
Yes.
Of course.
Wonderful.
Why should I stop? Because it's not going to sell less than in early access. So, and I love working on it.
I mean, that's good. A lot of that is the perfect one, because a lot of people, when they work on a game, they feel like, oh, finally it's done. I can move on to something else. If you're enjoying like working on it, I say keep going, because I mean, again, I enjoy playing it. Everyone here like enjoys playing it, even if there are varying levels of skill at it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrible at it, but it's fun.
Now, one thing I will say, parts of me feels like this game still needs a manual. Like, not even anything fancy, anything like tutorialish, something that like explains some more of the mechanics. Because a lot of them I see they're there, but I don't know what they do. For example, I know there's a crew happiness mechanic, because like if you go to services and you like rest at like one of the fancier places in the ring, your crew can get like a happy face next to them, which indicates they're happy. I have no idea what that does. Like, there's no mouse over tip. There's nothing there. I don't know what that does.
Okay, fair. The idea I had for this, there are 3 areas in the game design or development that never end. You got additional content, performance, and tutorialization. So, like, no matter how fast your game runs, you can always make it a bit faster. No matter how many encounters you have, you can have a bit more. And no matter how many tutorials you have, you can add more. You can explain more things. So these are infinite. This you can work with this to the end of days.
Oh, absolutely.
I needed at some point to put, all right, this is enough. That's mainly based on player feedback, on video feedback, usually, because that's the best kind of feedback I get. When I can see someone playing the game not knowing anything, and then I get those all right, you missed this, you got this right, you got this right, this is totally unexplained, and I work based on that. And how do I put this? There are a lot of mechanics that are not explained intentionally, because I try to mirror what would happen in reality. So the my team is, I said initially that's what's asteroids, but with physics. An actual term would be the deconstruction of asteroids. So figuring out what would game of asteroids look like if it happened in real life. So that's why we are in rings of Saturn, because this is the only place in the solar system that makes sense that you have those asteroids. And as an extension of that, there are lots of things that if you figure out how that would work in reality, you will find that it works the same way in the game. So with happiness, for example, you get better performance. And how much better is kept vague intentionally, because this will depend from person to person. You will get other kinds of interactions. So like if people are happy working for you, they won't ask for raises so much. But
Fair
that's
enough.
Intentionally left vague. So you can, all right, if you can think about this way, if you, there's often things in games that you look at something and say, okay, it's fine mechanic, but in real life it would happen differently. So I try to not have that. So if someone approaches me like, okay, in real life your starship would have a different plume from your rocket, yeah, that's a bug level thing. That's something I spent months working on. So I try to do with all aspects of the game.
Yeah, and I do in that way. I do appreciate like when I could see that something's happening. I did appreciate. For example, I've noticed that when you like spend a lot of time resting, the education of your crew goes up, because presumably they like get courses and such to get better, while their experience goes up when they're actually doing things related to their job in the field. And that's why they have education and experience as separate track stats. Now, which one does which? I'm guessing they both do roughly the same thing, that they just sort of make them both better at a thing. because again, I don't know the exact details because the details you left vague intentionally. But yes, but it does. I do appreciate that. Like you gave the crew both a reason to sit back and learn, as well as actually, like, if you take them out, they get better at their job because experience. I had a point there and I kind of butchered it. Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, that's the sort of thing that leads to emergent gameplay, I would say.
Oh yes, yes, we have a lot
because of the variance of the things you don't necessarily have explained, but you could sort of figure out how the mechanics work just by doing things that make them happy. You could tell that there are effects even if you don't know the particulars.
Yes. There is also all the fact that, again, each crewman has the hidden story, which you put a lot of effort into that, and I have to congratulate you.
I'm excited.
There are some hilarious combinations that happen. For example, in my case, I ended up with how do I say this? I ended up with one crewman who is an ex-pirate, which helped me actually, because when I did find one of the pirates in the rings, they tried to shoot me dead. I opened comms and my crewman went, "Hey buddies, it's me! Don't shoot us!" And they went, "Why are you still alive? But also okay." And then later I learned that my other crewman is an ex-cop, which I presume made the because they interacted with one of the bounty hunters, as they're called in the game, which I presume made the situation on my ship extremely tense.
Kind of like Jagged Alliance on a spaceship a little bit.
Yeah. And then my third crewman, for some reason, had a 50,000 credit bounty on them for reasons they refused to tell me.
Yeah, I hate to spoil it to you, but that was all interactions with one person.
Really?
Yeah, that's what one crewman described in one quest.
Oh dear.
Oh boy.
Oh my.
Wow.
So that crewman was both a pirate and a cop?
No. There is there is no ex-cop.
But it was like, I don't remember exactly. It was something like they talked to bounty hunters and did stuff.
Yeah, because he was arrested and he knew them.
Ah, got it.
And he also had a bounty on him. That's
yeah. Another one I have is, of course, there's one person who's like constantly looking for someone on some ship, and every time they talk to anyone or go anywhere, they mention like this lost person that was on some ship that they don't know where they are. Which I keep being told, look in salvage services. There is no salvage services anywhere, so I don't know where to look, but I'll just keep looking. But regardless, it is very fun.
I wanted this thing to happen, that hiring a crew is not just a similar thing to buying an upgrade to your ship. So you're actually hiring a person, and they want to do something. Most people do want to do something with
I didn't know that was I didn't know that was a thing. I just hired people that had an interesting skill set.
Well, that's how you start. That's how you start. They certainly have skill sets. They will help you run your ship, run your company, but they all want to do something. Sometimes that's a silly thing. One person might want to get a cat.
Oh,
and, yeah, that's a thing that can happen. And sometimes they yeah, you even get achievement when you complete that.
Oh
yes.
Get the Beltauda cat.
Okay, so yeah, I have to do that now. I obviously have to
locate the cat.
I have to find the cat.
Yeah, admittedly there is some silly stuff there. Also, yeah, I had a weird thing happen where because what happened is I found a derelict ship. Presumably it was shot to buggery by another ship. It was just sort of floating around. I tried to grab it with the grabby arm, and I get a pop up from the crew that one of the crewmen wants to get over there and like repair it with 50,000 with like a bunch of remass for the thrusters to fix it up and get it going. What happened was very weird, because what happened was I did that. I sent them over. They yelled at me that they messed up and I need to get out of there. And I presume they got out of there because they were back on the ship. The problem is the ship itself, I thought it would like explode or it would like break down. No, it got up and started shooting me.
Wait, what?
So either I found a zombie.
Happened.
Either that is a zombie ship, or it's a bug that made a zombie ship. In which case, I'm very concerned.
Technically, you can buy this autopilot that does this, and it's usually locked off, so it cannot. There's an autonomous autopilot you can buy that will try to fly this ship for you.
That's a military grade one.
I think the next one.
And the ship had one of those.
Yeah, probably yes. And normally, when you pilot the ship, it has in universe they're called AI training. So it cannot take all the decisions it could normally. It may want to shoot another ship, but it doesn't have access to weapons. But technically it's a switch in the software of the ship. So we're going to revisit that for 2.0, where the storyline for 2.0 is where 1.0 storyline you have now is about the pirates and the bounty hunters. So you can get involved in that. In 2.0, I want to explore the AI. So you'll get all this, how the AI works in the setting, how are they used, what are their goals, and there's a really interesting conversation going on in the real world about AI recently. I thought this would be a good opportunity to explore this.
Yeah, good timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did find it interesting that like on one there is like this like automated trading station that has an AI that insists very much it is not sentient, but also by its own definition it is.
Yeah, there are bits of this already.
Yeah, there are bits of this already, and like I'm glad that the story is getting expanded because there's a lot of fun stuff in there. This is a great setting. Ever since I've watched The Expanse, I've had an unhealthy love for these kinds of near future, like solar system space settings, and this is just perfect for that. It's got the exact same vibe.
Yeah, I'm glad you think that.
I also love the bits of like setting writing you put into item descriptions, like you did the Dark Souls thing. Of item descriptions telling you story. Like, for example, one of the fact that one of the main engines you can buy for your ship is in fact a reaction thruster from a frigate, from a military frigate, which lets you like run the numbers in your head on how big a frigate is in this setting.
You can encounter one.
Oh,
wait, what? Okay.
Oh, God.
I don't want to, but okay.
Are they massive? Is that the thing? Are they massive?
Spoilers, I presume.
Whoa. I had a bit bigger than your ship.
Okay.
I had a couple of questions or suggestions or whatever, and it's not going to be the one that Jacob thinks it is. I am approaching this game from someone who's one of the people who wasn't very good at it, but I had the benefit of someone like Luke, who's in our audience, to say, hey, I'm stuck on this and this and this and this. And I had watched the video and went through the tutorial twice, and I still had some problems. And I don't know, for the first thing is, I don't know if there's a Discord or some place to turn for help to say, I know this is, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure there's a Discord link in the main menu of the game.
Is there? Okay. The other thing is, and this is another simple kind of thing, is one of the first things I do is I go out to the settings and they say, okay, where can I rebind things? And I know it was a visual thing, but it was a bit confusing for me, and it would be nice if there was like an option for like, the thruster, your left mouse button, this for that, instead of like a visual thing. But most importantly, as I listened to you talk about this, there's a lot more depth to this game than I was aware of at first. And it's something that would make me hit the buy button faster. And that is to find out, even if it's just kind of a light RPG kind of element to it, to find out more, a little bit about this, like up front, just say, well, hey, my crew member used to be an ex-con or is on the run. My other crew member is a police officer, to find out that there are AIs who think they're sentient in the game and things like that, just to make the player more aware.
Yeah. So I guess the argument is the story should be a bit more front and center.
I actually thought about this, but this is a difficult choice because how you market your game is also important part of the development, and
Right.
one of the things I found that's really important is to not oversell it. Like, do not suggest things that are not front and center in the game description. So if I tell this is okay, there are many stories here, and you can follow stories and you can role play. That's cool because that is in the game. But the main thing you will be doing most of the time is flying and mining rocks. And if you don't enjoy mining rocks, you're not going to enjoy this game.
Right, but I think what she's saying is like it sounds like some of us didn't even know that there were stories via the crew. Like you don't have to spoil any of their stories, but just saying that, that's
I'm not saying make it front and center, because it was enough for me to find out that I'm always looking for like the industrial aspect in the game, and as soon as I found that out, I said, "Wow, I'm sold." But it would be nice if it was something that I wouldn't have to kind of hunt for and find out later on. Just more. Even if I'm not saying you had to advertise it or something, but it's like up front sooner in the game. It's just something that adds more enjoyment for me.
Yes, go on.
I think maybe one of the things Yola is referring to is probably that when you're picking up crew, when you're recruiting them, a short biography or something like that would be interesting. But yeah, that would be probably had to be generated and may as well spoil exactly what their backstory will be inside the session.
Well, to be fair, on the store page, it does list about the crew that you hire. It doesn't go into their the stories necessarily, but the quote is, "The story does not revolve around you. It is driven by the characters you hire and encounter." So, taking that line as it's read, that tells you there is something to that. That hiring crew does have an effect on things beyond just making your ship an upgrade. So that's sort of there. It's hinted at, not directly, but it's there.
Yeah, this is one of the design choices you have to make, because if you put too much content up front for the player, it can be overwhelming. So this is a line I went for, and also this is something that in industry we call feature creep. So we could add the I have like 1,000 items I can add to the game listed. Like,
but you need to prioritize them.
Yeah, that there was one point. Okay, this is for 1.0. We'll finish up 1.0. We'll see what we can fit further in down the line.
Also,
so for the scale, 1.0 consists of 4,000 issues, roughly.
So you're telling us there could be more DLCs for the game in the future?
I think there would be content updates.
Okay.
I don't like the DLCs with things. All right, my approach to DLC is fine as long as it contains just optional content. If something is like, I think everybody would like to have, like everybody would like to have another ship, it shouldn't be DLC. It should be in the base game.
Actually, yeah, I wanted to ask you
That's
about
great.
it, actually.
That's great.
What brought on the idea of putting furries in your game as a DLC?
Yeah. That is a hilarious story because all right, this was an April Fool's joke, right?
Yeah, it was, but
3 years back, right? It was like, okay, I made a screenshot. I'm going to change the character portraits to be furries. Okay, that's what for one day shown on social media, and like people went and all right, shut up and take my money. So I was
Okay.
Okay, this takes about 3 days to make.
if you're so inclined.
You're talking about Certifer here, so yeah, thanks for adding it.
If the people want it, who are you
Who
to
are
deny
you
them
to
what
stop?
they want?
Huzzah!
Who are you to not give the people what they want? I mean, God.
I mean, it is extremely funny.
It is. It is funny. It's purely cosmetic, so you don't need it, which is nice.
Yeah, that's why it fits the DLC because that's something. If you want something like that, okay, sure, get it. If you don't like the default style of the portraits that want the anime ones, you can get that too. But that's only changes cosmetics.
Oh
that
god, those are so
actually
cursed. Sorry, yeah, carry on.
So, like for me, DLC is a good thing if it's something optional, something some players want, others don't. If something is like adding more story, adding new upgrades, adding new ships, this should be in the base game.
That's great.
No, that is.
I have
good.
probably another question here. Well, I guess we have pretty much encountered throughout the whole show here. But yeah, this is a game about mechanics, and there's a lot of them. I like to see it. So I was wondering here, because like you have multiple solutions to a problem in this game. I would describe like, I ran out of ammo for my railgun. Whoops, I did that. But I can still melt rocks with my thrusters. I can still do that. Just fire it up a little bit and melt the ice by that. So I was wondering, have you gotten like any inspiration from I guess Spaz will know what I'm talking about, maybe even Jacob here. Have you taken any inspiration from Hideo Kojima by allowing multiple solutions to a problem or something like that?
No, I actually, I perhaps not consciously, because it's hard to not get inspiration from games you play, right? So, but I wanted to go for the thing where the most solutions is actually emergent. So I set up the setting and I try to play and see what works, and then I codify this in the game lore that this is something actually people do.
And I also heard that you're still using the first ship in the game, and well, I'm still stuck in it. And hearing the developer himself flying the first ship in the game and giving it high praise, yeah, that brings me joy to hear. I like more side grades than straight upgrades myself.
Yeah, that's well. The idea was here that to mirror I actually based it on the automotive market of the real world. So like, there's no best car ever for everything. Because if there was, nobody would be buying anything else. Just
because people would just drive one car. Yes.
Yeah. So if you want a truck, you have good trucks. If you had the ships you have in the game are the what evolved to be the best ship in specific class, and you will find that pretty much every ship has some uses. Some are versatile, some are good at hauling a lot of cargo, some are nimble. And but I wanted to all of them to feel different, to this not being just another skin slapped on the same ship model. So they all will fly differently, they will behave differently, they will have other quirks. Some will like understeer when empty, other will understeer when full, and that's not something that was actually it was kind of designed in, but most of those things are emergent from this. The lot of things about the ships are simulated.
That's great. That's great. Because
Yeah.
I know what Jacob will probably say soon. Because there is another game series that's also gonna get a sequel this year that allows multiple builds that that forces the player to actually experiment around. So yeah, I love experimentation. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
So, actually, I wanted to mention because you mentioned Hideo Kojima, and the game in a roundabout way I've realized reminds me of Death Stranding. Because of the silly names and the weird plot, because it doesn't have one of those, but because primarily, again, Death Stranding is primarily about walking, or rather, it's about hiking, and how you can make the act of hiking interesting as a concept. Walking from one point A to point B, how do you optimize that? And in some way, Rings of Saturn is similar to that, because what you're doing is, because again, it's about banging open rocks and then eating those rocks. It's fundamentally a movement challenge. How do you get from one rock to the other without smashing into another rock and exploding, and with eating the most rocks in the shortest time period? But on top of that, there's a lot of very interesting content and a lot of interesting and many other interesting details that just make the game more fun on top of the very good core gameplay loop of, well, eating rocks. It essentially takes something that should be boring by itself and makes it very interesting by giving it a ton of depth. Because normally, again, mining in a space game is you point the big chunky mining laser at something, you press the trigger, and wait. What's that?
And I like those games too, like Jump Gate and whatnot. I appreciate those games, but it is nice to have something a little more involved like this, where you have to be much more active in your mining. I do appreciate that. Now, this uses the Godot engine, I believe. Was there a reason you chose that particular engine over something like Unity or Unreal, or for example? Because I don't run into it. We are running into more games that are using Godot, but it still seems like not as many games use it as, say, Unity or whatever.
Well, the Unity is like the go-to for the indie games because it's free and its resources for that are everywhere. And I actually used Godot because I initially wanted to make my own engine for this. In the day job, I'm a programmer, so that was a possibility. But then I figured that would be too much work, and it's not, you don't make an engine for a 1 month project, what was initially visualized. So I looked for something that would be friendly for me, and Godot was actually one of those engines that seem like friendly for programmers.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I am running more. We do seem to be running into more and more games that are using it.
There are a lot of games that use Godot, but you don't have to advertise it. There's nothing like this is completely open source. You can do with it whatever you want, and there are a lot of games that just don't mention that are made in Godot.
Oh, okay.
Anything could be Godot. It could be me. It could be you. All right, carry on.
So I looked on this. It was like low barrier of entry. It had low barrier. It's really a pretty small piece of software compared to other engines. Like you want to install Unreal, that's like 4 gigabytes right now, something like that. And Godot takes like 20 megabytes in one executable, and that's it. You have entire engine.
Oh, really?
So this entire concept inside the engine, the node tree, how the events are connected, just resonated with me.
Yeah, because I don't know anything about engines, so just learning about all these different engines has been kind of fascinating. And Godot is one that is coming up, at least in my sphere, more and more often. Because yeah, like you said, a lot of games don't advertise it. So they should. They totally should. Because I dig it, you know. Hang on. And so wait, how big is your game? Let's see, because you said, wow, it's not even a gig.
Wait, it isn't?
No, I just looked it up. It's 0.98 gigabytes. This game is in scope huge, but not in physical size. That must be.
If you want it, I can certainly make it bigger.
No, I'm
That's not a problem.
Well, no, you were saying how like tiny the engine is and how small it is and how efficient it is, and I was just like
the engine executable of that is just like 40 megabytes total for all the platforms supported. Oh, and one thing that I really liked about Godot, it is basically a virtual machine, kind of. So the game comes into two files. You have the engine itself and the data file, and you can swap the data file across all platforms, and it just works. So we have the Linux port, the Mac port that works just by changing that 20 megabyte part of the entire game.
Oh, so it's very easy to port over to other systems as well. Is that might be part of the reason why it's so popular? Is because you don't get.
Oh my god!
Where is it coming to Linux? It just happens.
So wait a minute. I'm looking at this. The whole game is two files: the exe and the PCK, and that's it.
Yeah, the PCK is kind of like zip, so there are files inside. Just there for your convenience.
So it actually, size-wise, it would work on my favorite handheld, but the font would have to be about like 2-point font.
You can enlarge your font.
So
I don't think.
Have you thought about? Go ahead.
Yes.
Have you thought about doing versions for mobile device? Like Android or iOS?
No, because this game is actually pretty heavy on the physics, and so it's quite demanding on the CPU. It runs on Steam Deck pretty well, but this is like our minimal hardware requirements is like you need to have at least Steam Deck.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Now wait, that leads me to a question. Does this, because I didn't look, does this have gamepad support? Like, could I play this with a gamepad?
Yeah,
support?
this has full gamepad support.
Oh, for God's sakes. Okay, I gotta I just saw the
keys
keys.
if memory serves.
I just saw the keyboard keys and I was like, okay, I'll play it this way. And I had no idea that gamepad support was in there.
You played it with gamepad.
No, I did not.
I saw you playing with gamepad.
No, I was only playing with a keyboard and mouse.
I'm going to dig up that video for you.
Okay, maybe
because I remember I had a feedback about gamepad support specifically from watching you play.
Oh, it says full controller support right here on the Steam page. Well, I'm an idiot. Excuse me. I'm sorry. There's no homework here on the Space Game Junkie podcast. We all just go from our gut. We all just shoot from the hip. That's what we do. No research. Who has time for that? Research. No, I'm glad to hear that because that'll probably make the game a lot easier for me to play. Maybe when I played it back in the day, but what I do with early access games is I try it once and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to like this. And then I don't touch it again until it hits 1.0 because I don't want to burn out on it before. And a lot of changes usually happen. Like there's another game coming out. It's an early access that I lost like 18 hours to. I'm like, I got to stop because he keeps adding new things to it. And I'm just going to get lost in that. So I have to stop. So I don't play a lot of early access games beyond like playing them initially. So if I played with a gamepad back in the day and forgot, that's on me. I apologize. I'm sorry. But I'm glad to hear it has gamepad support. And now I'm going to play it a lot more because it has gamepad support because it seems perfectly suited to a gamepad. Like perfectly suited to a gamepad.
It works very well. Now I don't use it with a gamepad because I feel like it. But yeah, it works with a gamepad perfectly well.
It's fair. I love me some gamepad. So the game is going to come out 1.0 next month. And we already talked about potential future DLC, if any, which will probably be completely optional. Now, are you just is the plan to just keep building upon this game? Do you have anything like a sequel in the works? Because we got to start wrapping up. So that's the kind of questions I ask when we got to start wrapping up is,
Okay. Like I'm certainly going to work on this for couple of years at least.
Hey, that's fine, man.
Because I really enjoy it, and I have things I want in. I want more things in, right? So one of the ideas I had when making this game. So there's this idea of target audience. Yeah, I'm terrible at English. So, audience. Okay. So the people who will enjoy your game. So I figured I best make the game I enjoy, and just hope there are other people like me. So this way I got a really fast feedback loop if a feature is good or not, because I just played. I know, no, that's not good. I need to change it. So instantly, and because of that, I really like playing this and working on this. So this will continue. And I have ideas for 2, not sequels, but other games in the same universe. I wanted to make I wanted to make a logistic shipping game about shipping in solar system.
Oh,
Space trucking, you say?
Yes,
something like there's very unexplored portion about space games. I'm really puzzled why games don't do that, or perhaps some do, and I just don't know about it. But
no, a lot don't.
I think about space that's very unique and is not explored is that your map changes over time. So like planets are in orbit, and this year Mars is close, and next year it will not be close. So this gives you a lot of opportunity of strategic planning, long-term strategic planning in game about space shipping.
Oh yeah, no, No, I was just going to say a lot of games don't do that because it's probably complicated to pull off, and it's probably complicated for gamers. But if you could make that, straightforward, that would be amazing. Like I have to get this. Go ahead. Sorry.
We'll see how that it goes. That's one of the things I'm considering and checking out. Actually, if I can pull the visuals off. And another thing I would like to try, it's like a first-person game inside your spaceship. So, so it would take place in this time that you're not actually mining. So you take your ship and go to the Enceladus station. It takes like 12 hours minimum. And then you'll have your first person walk around the ship. You can see how gravity changes with the ship movement. You have all the habitats you can interact with. It's basically about maintaining your ship in flight and living aboard the ship, in contrast to piloting it. So I thought this would be a cool thing. And also I'm doing this all in the one universe because I have things I worked on here established. I don't have to invent new ships because those will work because I needed to make them pretty much physically accurate for this game, so it will work in any other physically accurate game.
Oh, that's
true.
That's great. No, that is great. Yeah, so you're building a franchise here, which I could see.
So basically, games in the same universe, but with completely different mechanics, but sharing stuff that I already established.
No,
sounds good.
That's great. If you have Sorry.
So, may I throw out a quick question here before?
Yeah.
Quick question here about optional stuff you mentioned before there. DLC or whatnot. Can we get more fancy HUDs for the ships? I like the selection so far, but it feels like you can do some crazy stuff with that, and I like to see what's on display.
Yeah, the new HUDs come with new ships. So there's always a stock HUD for a ship. There's not like I feel like the HUD is like a dashboard in a car. You can replace it with another cars, but there's something that comes stock. Actually, I think in early versions you could not retrofit HUDs, so it was more about like you change the ship to Prospector and you have another HUD because it's another ship. But some players really dislike that because
you get used to
really.
one of the, you get used to the one.
So
then,
like
I am also very happy you gave the Eagle Prospector. I'm really glad you had a variant that changes the ship to metric, because I understand it's American. It's like in feet and pounds or whatever, but it would have driven me up the wall if I had to deal with that.
Hey, we're not sorry. We're not sorry with your metric system.
I am a professional miner in space. I do not want your freedom units on my spaceship.
Sorry, we will use any other thing but the metric system. That asteroid is 15 dachshunds away. Okay, it is 80 puppies away. We will use anything except the metric system. God damn it. Because that's how we
a large rock the size of a small rock, by the way.
Oh no.
Large, bigger than a football stadium.
That's about the limit we can handle. That rock is 18 football stadiums away. That's basically how we do everything. Sorry. There's actually a great
that was very funny.
No, there's actually a great Facebook group called, I think, Americans Will Do Anything to Not Use the Metric System or something like that. It's so freaking dumb. There's so much dumb stuff in there. It's so dumb.
Before we go, I want to thank the developer for making an industry game and not just making another Bing Bing space shooter. It's really my kind of game.
Yeah.
There should be a lot more like it.
Agreed. I mean, space combat is great, but mining is also great. Making money is also great. So, like, space is big, y'all. There should be room for everything.
Though I will say, I do find it interesting, like how many of the mechanics end up working really great for a combat game. The damage control mechanic, I love it. The way that despite them being mining tools, the weapons are exceptionally well designed, with a lot of varied options of what you could do with them. You can also tune them. You can tune everything in this game.
Yeah, I gotta say, what's the gun that comes on your first ship? Is that like some kind of mass driver or something like that?
It's the coil gun, if memory serves.
It's so satisfying to shoot it from a reaction standpoint and from a sound standpoint. It's so satisfying.
Same here.
Just makes that lovely ka-chunk sound. It's like, yes. Now,
personally, I use microwaves and mining lasers because what happens when you ka-chunk an asteroid open, because this is a simulation game, the
flies off everywhere,
Yep, they all go into... I had to... By the way, I have a question. Is beryllium, like, particularly springy in this game? Because, like, I understand it's very expensive.
But it's all tied together, so, like, beryllium has a really low density in real life. So the chunk of the size you see is, like, 10 times lighter than for iron or something like that.
And as a consequence...
if you impart energy, it flies fast. And as a consequence of that, because it's challenging to mine, it's expensive.
Got it. I see. That's how it is. So because it flies off at Mach however much every time you smack open a rock with it and have to chase it through half the ring, it's more expensive. Makes sense.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Emergent economics.
Beautiful. We didn't talk about that. The economy is dynamic. Am I remembering that correctly? It is a dynamic economy.
Yeah, kind of. Yes, there are changing prices, and you can have effect on your actions actually affect the prices, but there is no full simulation of the market. So, like that's something that you would have to make another game to make a good simulation of market.
So
we're not going to deal with.
Well, it's fair. I mean, as long as it fools me into thinking it's somewhat dynamic, that's fine.
It's kind of dynamic. It's your actions. If you really buy or sell a lot of, or it will change the price, but it will not be very predictable. Like it might affect the effect might be that the price falls if you sell a lot, but there might be a hidden undercurrent that will make it rise. That was actually a lot of work to balance out, because in the early versions it was easy to make a lot of money by just trading. Like you made your first million in mining, and then you could just trade and trade and trade. So
and not play the game.
Yeah, well, play the other part of the game, but not the fun part. So there was a lot of effort put in there to make it like feel like there's a real market going on, and but not being the making you not be able to break it quickly. So there are things like we abandoned the idea of skipping time, just pressing a button to skip days, because that was not fun. We have those hotels and services right now for skipping time, and that works much better, mostly because it gives you like in universe immersive experience that your crew is going somewhere to wait, and you are not just sitting around. And I don't want to take away that feeling that this is a thing that's really happening in space. Like so it's not getting too gamey. I'm not sure if I make sense.
No,
I get what you mean. Yes,
totally makes sense. Yeah, you don't want to gamify it too much, because you gamify something too much, it takes you out of it.
Yeah, I wanted one of the things that I really when I play for hours. Both for testing and for enjoyment. That's a cool thing. So when I play it, I like to feel like I'm actually on the ship, and I'm interacting with crew and interacting with real station and real market, and not just numbers that I can crunch up. So lot of changes and balancing got in there to make it this way.
Right.
And we're all thankful for it.
Oh yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
Friends, the game is Delta V, Rings of Saturn. It is...
Which, by the way, I wanted to mention before that, Brian here works in search engine optimization, and you calling the game Delta V, as in the letter Delta and V, I feel like has kind of cost you some sales from people who just typed in Delta V, the word Delta V into the Steam search bar, and saw there's nothing there.
I didn't really want to say anything, but that can be a problem. Yeah.
Actually, that works really well.
Does it?
That works really well, because that's first, it stands out.
Okay, that's probably very true. Yeah, that's probably quite true.
That stands out, and it's a geek filter. So this is like this thing that people say, oh, this might be a game for me.
I see.
Okay, that's...
Of course, I don't have another game, just the same game with another name to give you a comparison. So that's my feel, is that it actually works pretty well. Most people, when looking for it, they look for Rings of Saturn anyway.
Yeah, that's what I usually look. I will tell you, it was tough finding, like I wanted to find the size of the game, and I'm like, where the hell is it in my Steam folder? I don't know where the hell it is in my Steam folder. Oh, it's under D. Interesting. But anyway, it's called, just look for Rings of Saturn on Steam, or because that's probably the easiest way to find it. It is also in, what's the bundle called? Does anyone remember what the bundle's called?
Space Alliance Bundle.
Say again, please.
Independent Space Alliance.
Independent Space Alliance Bundle.
Independent Space Alliance Bundle.
Which was put together by devs on our Discord.
Yeah, and that's astounding. It's a great bundle. By the way, it's got so many good games in that. If you want to bundle, if you want to support other space game developers besides Coder here, Coder, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us. I know it's late there, but I really do appreciate it. So that's
It's been
good.
my pleasure.
Oh, ours too. So, folks, there's not going to be a podcast next week or any streams for that matter. We have a house guest, so can't really do it. So, no podcast next week. But I'm working on a guest for the week following. I think they've said yes. They just haven't fully confirmed. But I think we're going to have a guest in 2 weeks. I just not 100% there on board yet. But thank you everyone for listening. We had a great chat today. Very active chat. Thank you so much. Sorry about the doorbell. Yeah, but I think my 386 has arrived. And we'll see you later, folks. Be safe. Take care of each other. Please get vaccinated if you haven't already. And thank you, as always, to our patrons. We'll see you next time, y'all.